In the club and it was all right. He was up on the stand repeating two words over and over again. And the audience was mesmerized in the hypnotic and syncopated manner in which she said them. These two words. Boop, just a little bit behind the beat. I mean, just enough to turn you on. For every time she said the word, but we're gone. Should have tried to wrap it up. Should have stand and stare. No one else was watching it and didn't seem to care. So over and over, she said the word till he couldn't take no more. In the alley over by the curb. Oh wait, that's not how it goes. It goes, he ran up on a stage and to get a day ran to the back door. In the alley over by the curb, she said, tell me what's your name. She only said the words again. And it started to rain, 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 rain. Hey guys. Two words falling between the drops. All right. Notes. Got them. Book. Yes. Water. Stay hydrated, baby. Yes. Been keeping my beer drinking to myself lately, and not a lot of internet beer drinking. Maybe that's an issue. I don't know what this lice thing is. That a haircut joke? I don't know what that is. Over and over, she said a word till he could take no more. And I don't want to stand. Took it around to the back door. Oh man, when that cat ear gets folded over, pooh, that ain't cool. Am I ready? Am I ready? Everybody else is ready. Right up on a stand. Lice OSE recap session. That's cool. In the alley over by the curb. She said, tell me, what's your name? What's up, y'all? It's Hankrin Fernale here. It's Ingrid Bernal, your old buddy from Runehammer. This magnificent palace of role-playing you see here is Drunkens and Dragons. This is actually just a tiny little room in a tiny little house in a gigantic city somewhere in America. Semi-anonymity. I'm in a tiny little room in a tiny little house. All right. Yeah, so hello, everybody. Welcome to Friday. Happy Friday to you. Hope you had a good week. Hope you did a bunch of cool shit. Had a good time and stayed in one piece. Yeah, and since doing that junk stream the other day, my room is in complete shambles. It's total chaos back here. Over here, you can kind of see some of my workbench back over there. Yeah, and find really typo day. Fine. So, anyways, hi everybody. It's typo day. Welcome to Friday. We are here to chill, stone cold chill. And yeah, I don't know anything about dodging COVID bullets, so I feel like I'm not even making any comment. You cannot say a single thing about all of that on the internet ever. It is completely forbidden. So, hi everybody. We're here to talk about some fucking D&D. All right. So on Monday night we had a whopper. So session 28 for my group. And we can talk about all the housekeeping junk at the end because apparently here I go. Here I go. So buckle in, put on your D&D seatbelt because once the momentum gets going on these bad boys, I just got to keep my brain. Your brain goes into a certain place where you can access more detail about something than if you're just casually saying, hey, do you remember that time we went up to the lake for summer camp? And I'll be like, no, I can't remember anything. But if you start talking about summer camp, you start getting into like that area of the brain and it gets going. And that is definitely how these session recaps work. Like if you just ask me all the details and I need to write them down, it's very hard to do. Like it's just all a fog. But if you just ease yourself into it and get into that story, it has a weird way of reminding you of all the smallest things. It's kind of crazy. So that's why I get into this like bonzo stream of consciousness kind of mindset. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Session 28, we had a short session, which was about 3 hours. So for us, that's like the shortest possible session. There's a lot of moaning and groaning at the end of the 3 hours. But we were just coming off the Necronomicron. And so like, you're tired for like a week after getting the necro. So it was just kind of like, oof. my third quarantine is finally over. So yeah, I'm like, whoa, this D&D stuff is mentally challenging. But everybody got through it. I swear, the whole city just went through that together. Everybody got over it, and there was a feeling of jubilation as everyone returned from the triple threat combo of like New Year's, COVID, Christmas, all at the same time. Like that was gnarly. There was a week there, it was just like a dead zone. It was so creepy. But now everybody seems really happy again, and life returns to the forest, as they say. But session 28 was a very short one. And that it was an interesting one because it was almost like a horror session. So a lot of times I talk about one of the best things you can do in your game isn't necessarily how you do it or the techniques or the system you use or this, that, or the other thing, but it's just variety. Just variety itself buys you a ticket into the cool GM club, because variety just makes everything interesting, even if things aren't working out as planned, or like maybe some combat is going slow, or you're not feeling like your best or whatever. But if a session is really different from its predecessor or its successor, you get like a discount coupon on badassery. You get more badass than you deserve, almost, because the variety is like doing so much work for you. And so session 28 was, and I already summed it up on a previous stream, but in a very brief form, basically they were heading north following the Skandahar. These Viking werewolf warriors, following them on kind of this final trek. I mean, there are other loose ends in their world, but this is really it. I mean, this is the trek to the big source of evil, and they're following this sort of ragtag army who's been reduced over time, and they come across this destroyed town where my sort of most elusive villain that has never been confronted in an entire year of gameplay, Admiral Akarov, my sort of arch vampire, has decided to go 30 days of night on this shit, and has just come to like a polar town in the ice and just eaten everyone in the town or tore them to pieces. He just had himself a weekend. I had to do some vampire self-care. Sometimes you just got to get away. And so they walked in on that. And really, it was just meant as a transitional sort of chapter in our story to get our players where they really need to be, which is the island of Coot and the egg's nest up in the north of Blackmore. There was really nothing to this, but for some reason, this encounter with the aftermath of this arch vampire really took on a darkness to it, a gruesome darkness. And that was session 28. It was really interesting because it was a complete reprieve, a reprieve from our bigger story arc. You know how like in longer TV shows, when they start to get more meta and bigger arcs, but then suddenly you have like a random one-off show that pops in that's kind of crazy. Like Buffy did that, X-Files did that, Star Trek did that. That's what this was, but completely on accident. So once again, I don't think necessarily you want to plan this kind of stuff, because I just don't believe that planning really is the route to a lot of creative expression. It's sort of readiness. And when this moment arises, I also think horror is extremely hard, not only to run and make effective, but even more difficult to plan. Like, oh, here's the part that's going to be scary. Like, what? No, you just don't know until you're in the moment. And in the moment, this really did become dark and scary. It was really weird. But that was session 28. And so they get through that dark, weird encounter, and now they're heading across the ice to kind of the final fortress of the main source of evil in the main storyline we have. Now, we have 3 or 4 sort of storylines that are interconnected, but this is really looking for the biggest answers of what's wrong is leading them to this place. And in Dave Arneson's vision of Blackmore, between the Temple of the Frog and the Egg's Nest were his 2 sort of grand evil parts of the world. And especially with the Egg of Coot, because for Dave Arneson, in his version of Blackmore, the Egg of Coot is this biological entity that enthralls other entities, that enthralls people and beasts with this sort of mind control. And anyone can be a sort of thrall of the Egg of Coot in Dave Arneson's world. And this piece of art is from back in the day, a project I did for Carbon Games, but we can talk about that later. And so now they're moving up across the ice for something that is not going to be horror at all. This is probably going to be like tactical difficulty as the sort of one of the core themes. Sometimes you notice in players that they're looking for that tactical moment that's going to be to push them to new heights. And you can often sense this coming as the GM, because they'll start joking about how they're all going to die tonight. And we've all seen this in a player group, right? It's over the text thread or whatever. They'll all start joking about how no one's going to survive this. And to me, that's a fun sort of subtle signal to say we're up against some serious shit and we're excited about it. We're excited to be facing like a number challenge, a massive number crunch. So my job as the GM is to show up with this, especially getting some of these cues. I know they're into it for session 29. And so here we go up across the pack ice, right? The bay north of Blackmoor is frozen solid, and the Skandahar have walked north across this pack ice to go to the island of Coot. Now, in my version of Blackmoor, the eggs of Coot are not just these sort of this ambiguous mind control Godzilla entity thing. In my version, an egg of Coot is a sort of a code word or a nickname for a nascent dragon egg, and it's different forms that it can take. Depending on how quickly they're hatched, they can become dragons, or more frequently, much more frequently, they become lesser beings like reptilians and wyverns. And in the worst cases, they come out like formless sort of, horrors. They're kind of these blobby, massy things that haven't formed, and they don't live long, and they're not that dangerous, but they're kind of gnarly in the meantime. My players know that at the egg's nest, this sort of place that they haven't really been able to visualize, there is some kind of supreme location for these eggs, either where they're gathered, they're hatched, they're stored, or even maybe where they originate. They're not sure. Excuse me, I must be allergic to awesomeness. It's a grandpa joke. So they haven't really been able to visualize what this is going to be like, but they know that there are watchtowers around the island, and people kind of talk about the island like how you talk about Monster Island in Godzilla, right? It's this strange place. No one really goes there, and there are weird noises and weird lights over there, but nobody goes over there. So they approach. There are these massive cliffs, of course, lining this intimidating island. And in the cliffs, there are a few openings, little cavern openings. They find evidence of the Skandahar having made their way into a couple of these different cavern entrances, and they choose the lower one rather than climbing a frozen ice fall, like a frozen waterfall that's solid ice. They say that looks a little challenging, so they're just going to take the low cavern and make their way in. Beyond the lip of these caverns, especially using our wizard's crystal ball that he can use to go up like 500 feet with his mind's eye, they see this huge black cinder cone. And this landscape is basically like a lot of what you see in Iceland, which is you have ice and snow, and then a completely abrupt shift into this sort of black gravel, like igneous landscape. And this is the landscape they're dealing with. So it's this like geothermal island that's surrounded by ice, but that has this like hot black gravel with this giant cinder cone that's smoldering up in the middle. Fuck yeah, right? I mean, all this time and all that they've done and all this adventuring, and they're heading into the lair of this supreme evil, and it's a freaking volcano cone that is surrounded by a like system of little sort of spires of rock and a system of caverns and tunnels. So if you can get Iceland in your mind, you can see a lot like this sort of landscape that they're facing. And I think it's really important to set this landscape tone, because I don't want this to just be a volcano. Like, to me, a volcano is just, like palm trees and there's lava dripping down the side, and like the rock has like khakis on and stuff. It's not that kind of volcano. It's this other kind. And that's important because we're in the far, far north of the realm. It's also important because it gives you like implied clues about the ecology here, that there's going to be super hot geothermal pools and like sulfuric mud, and even occasionally magma that's visible in lava tubes and stuff like that. So all that starts coming into the mind, and in a player's mind, they can conjure up dangers out of this sort of sense of the ecology. And you want that, because then they're scared. And when they're scared, the game is fun. So in they go into this tunnel. They begin exploring. They find evidence that these tunnels have been cut and are used to access different parts of this area and are patrolled. They have these big locked iron doors. So they need to get around and they need to access their own tunnel system, but they do not want intruders. The Skandahar are nowhere to be seen. They find evidence that the occupants here, as they're moving room to room, are using disenchanters, which come in the form of like blue eels in our world. They use these disenchanters in these baskets that we call creels, and they keep them, and they hurl them at their foes. And we've encountered this about 10 to 15 sessions ago. And for those of you who are familiar, a disenchanter is a kind of a classic D&D monster that doesn't eat anything or inflict hit points at all. All it does is drain magical energy from items when it touches them, and that's what it feeds upon. That's what keeps it alive. Also, these bad guys are using chlorine weapons. Now, if you've been watching all the streams and the recaps, you know these are terrible. They can either destroy life force, matter, or magic itself. Then in about the third room, as they very carefully and quietly, I might add, move their way forward, they hear sounds of someone breathing their last. And this is huge. For me, as a GM, I actually gave myself a coin after this scene, a hero coin, because it was just that damn awesome. Sometimes it's just like vampire self-care, sometimes you just got to treat yourself. But our character, Rhys. Now, Rhys dates back to the third session of the campaign when he confronted players and said, I'm here to destroy the eggs of Coot. What are you doing? You're all a bunch of low-level losers. Like, get out of my way, a bunch of jokers. You won't even survive, right? Please, with the non sequitur questions, save them till the end. Rhys, right, who dates back to session 3. Who's always been this sort of devious force where he's good and evil. And these are great characters because they're three-dimensional characters. They aren't just like, I kill everyone I meet and I eat their bones and I'm a big jerk, so you definitely want to kill me. This is a character who has helped my players and who has also betrayed them. And that three-dimensional combo makes this character really something. And we are now, as my video description mentioned, we are coming toward the end of this campaign, and I know it's time for this scene. And I've been dreaming about this scene and not being sure what would happen or what would be said or how would it play out. But here's how it is. They enter this room. It's got a sandy floor. They're somewhere between cut caverns and sea caves, right? Things are getting a little more tense. They're knowing that they're going to bump into some of these guards they hear moving deeper in the caves. And then they hear this sort of sound. They come around, and there's Rhys lying on the floor, sort of bleeding out. And next to him is this broken longsword. But upon a closer look, he's been hit with some kind of chlorine weapon. And they come in and he's like, at last, I've gotten what I deserved. And he's like, for the first time, like a smile is spreading across his face. And he's sad. He's breathing his last few breaths, but he also is reaching over to this broken sword that's lying on the ground. And he says, Delilah, I'm so sorry, my love. Blah, blah, blah. On this scene goes, and it was freaking amazing. But basically, the long and the short of it is, Rhys was struck with one of these magic anathema weapons that these new higher level enemies have in these caverns. All magic was nullified on him. All his equipment, all his spells, everything that has ever augmented him magically is instantly stripped and destroyed. And he is defeated in battle. But the other piece is Delilah, the third of the sentient swords in our world. There's only 3 sentient swords in our game world because putting a human soul into a sword is considered super cruel and totally taboo in our world. So only 3 of them were ever made. And Delilah was his love before this happened, and she was trapped inside this sword that he had. And so not only by stripping the magic away, she's gone. Her soul like slips into oblivion, but the sword is broken in 2. And then they notice that Rhys, he's smiling. And he apologizes to the players, and they say, we'll heal you. We'll heal you. And he says, if you heal me, it will only crawl back in. And they're like, what? And they look down to his side, and where his rib cage and his guts have kind of been, opened up a little bit, gruesome on the floor of this cavern, there is this sort of crawling green slime that is leaving his body. And my players have never seen this happen in real time, but they know about it from various clues throughout our campaign. This is the corruption. This is the sort of mind control sort of mold or slime that's being used by Bloodwing, or so my players think, to create its sort of army, but they've never really seen it in this active form. And so as he lays there and bleeds out, the corruption is leaving him because it doesn't like to be in a dead body. So they offer to heal him because they realize, oh my God, he was never a bad guy at all. And he tells them, I've been fighting it for decades. I was one of the first. Some days I held it at bay, and others it completely had control over me. And they're like, oh my God, you were never our enemy. You were one of the corrupt, and you were actively trying to fight it. And only in death is there relief from this thing. And of course, my wizard is taking notes, and he's doing like careful anatomical studies, figuring out the details of the corruption. This is the linchpin to them retaking their world. The corruption is spreading everywhere, like in so many great fantasy stories. It's this kind of formless source of evil that takes the good and turns it evil. So my wizard is taking notes. My wizard also had harvested an orc's head from, I believe it was session 26, and has been carefully dissecting and studying the pathology, meaning the after effects of the corruption once it's left. And he has figured out that the amygdala is completely overtaken by the corruption. And when it departs, it only leaves once the amygdala goes quiet, when brain death occurs. So Rhys lays there. He apologizes. He mentions he was one of the first even before Bloodwing, and there reveals it. Bloodwing himself, the epic colossal dragon that has been causing all this problems, is himself corrupted. And Rhys reveals this in his dying breath, because really this is one of the biggest secret treasures. Really secrets are the greatest treasure in a campaign a lot of times. And this is a huge one. This makes it a morally difficult choice to destroy Bloodwing, even if my players become capable of doing so. And so Rhys expires. And because maybe it was like early in the session and just the moment was right, I definitely brought my A game as far as dramatic acting to this scene, and it felt really damn good. So I gave myself a hero coin. Everybody took in all these secrets and information. They actually took Delilah and reforged her using Galmorn's manacles, which he can reforge and fuse and alter metal. So he repairs the sword, but Delilah's soul is gone. They basically plan to give this sword back to Admiral Akarov as a gift, sort of as a gift of goodwill, to commemorate, like, that this is ending, like that this era is ending. They don't really see Akarov as a true villain. They see him as a betrayed lord who really is just living in despair. And this is a cool three-dimensional view of a total villain. So they keep this sword for that purpose, and they move deeper into the caves. We get a beautiful critical success by our rogue to pick this iron door, who does it with perfect silence to reveal this sort of guard chamber where they go in. But then, of course, a stealth roll is missed, and we get our first view of a Green Knight. Now, after this moment, this session becomes a water slide from about 8 p.m. to midnight. So what I've just told you happened from about 5 to 8. This was a pretty big session. This was about 6.5 hours. But once they hit this first night, the action music was playing through to the very, very end. And I have to be completely honest, which we'll talk about more later, but it was exhausting in a way. Okay, so here we go. They alert the first of the Green Knights. Now, a Green Knight is basically a 7-foot-tall reptilian, sort of draconic biped, and they carry these huge maces which have a hollow end on them. And in this end is this magic anathema gas. By study and by investigation, my characters figure out that the spikes on this mace have a spring mechanism with a release valve. And when they hit, they release a tiny amount of this gas, just enough to have its effect. So being hit once, mind you, once by one of these maces would strip you of all your magic items. Well, you'd have them, but they'd be mundane. You would forget how to cast all the spells you've ever known. I mean, the danger level is extreme here. This is almost worse than taking a massive amount of hit point damage. This is months upon months of progress for these characters that can be robbed in a split second. So bang, holy crap, they go into combat mode. They realize there's quite a pinch here, and so they search for a secret door. There's got to be secret doors these guards are using to move around quickly. Search for secret doors is something that happens about once per session for us, once every other session. And we really believe in the power of search for secret doors. We really let that role be awesome in our game. And so one is found kind of surprisingly, and it's this side chute with a broken sort of little bridge over a drop cavern with a geothermal pool far down below, but with another exit at the far end. So this is another route through these caverns that doesn't mean just blasting right through this big imposing enemy. But I got to tell you, when it comes to a choice in a dungeon, even just a simple A or B corridor choice, it can really be like a rock in a river to player momentum and to player cognitive acuity. It's like placing a rock in the current of a river. I swear, it's just instantly the rapids form as far as their minds, their strategy, and their cooperation goes. Now, they'll reunite in time, but I'm sure you guys have noticed this. It's crazy. So this choice is introduced, and there's a brief moment of confusion about which character is sort of making sure that the lower armor class characters aren't vulnerable, because there's a very narrow space that they're fighting in, and like marching order becomes terribly important. I don't know why everyone's acting surprised that I'm doing a stream. I do these every week. But anyways, so marching order becomes absolutely critical, but they've been caught a little bit flat-footed. And as that next round unfolds, there it is. Poor Slim, who's been through so much in this campaign, finds himself on point up against this thing and is hit by this mace. He is drained completely of all magic, of all spell casting. He's been slowly building up his cleric. I think he's got 4 levels of cleric that he's been building as his secondary class. He forgets these spells. His beloved Heart of Temrin, which is a holy relic, is actually a dehydrated heart of Temrin, the patron saint of sort of time travel. It's been drained of all magic. It's no longer there. He can't feel the presence of his own patron saint. He's lost all sense of magic, divine or arcane. And he has a bit of a moment of panic, but also is a real champ about it, and just backs up and he says, we need to get across. We can use this gap. We don't want to fight him directly, but we can use the gap. Maybe we can get him to fall in this gap. He makes the jump across because his dex is awesome, and he basically is spiritually recovering while the group has to reconfigure their marching order to jump this gap. Meanwhile, of course, because the way the dice spoke, a second guard joins the fray. The first guard now tries to make this gap and misses. And we have a rule that if you try to jump a gap and you miss the dex roll, we call it hanging by your fingers. It's where you don't fall into the abyss. It's where you just need help to get up and you're going, like Die Hard style, right? So we have to apply that to the enemies. So this Green Knight tries to jump across. He's too big and he's hanging on by his fingers. And what does Slim do? He gets redemption on this guy. He takes his throwing axe and like chops off the fingers. And the guy tumbles down and basically is vaporized in this super hot geothermal magma water mixture. The bottom of this drop off. And there's redemption here. The second guard now comes in. The marching order has been repaired. So we have my tanks up front with their super gnarly armor classes. They can't get hit, so they can hold their own. They managed to take this guy down. Now they notice some shit on their belts. They have a magic resistance shield, kind of Dune style. And then also this second one who arrived has some kind of object on his belt. They steal the object, not sure what it is. They make this jump and basically collapse the tunnel behind themselves to block off any more guards. And there's a brief moment of quiet, but we're talking about one round of quiet. What is this thing? It looks like a crossbow, but without the bow arms. It's a fucking blaster. These draconic reptilians have blasters, and I mean blaster in the straight up sense of the word. Basically, like, like Boba Fett's blaster, right? My characters have never seen anything like this, and my players kind of saw it coming. Now, remember, we have Ruin in our group. Ruin is a giant, like, cloud-style buster sword, which is made out of adamantium. And the only place you can really get adamantium of this quality is from fucking space. There are also rumors that there's some kind of crashed spacecraft somewhere in Blackmoor called the Starfarer. Now, this may sound like crazy pants. You may be like, oh man, back in the old school days, D&D didn't have spaceships in it. Well, you can stuff a sock in that one, because Dave Arneson came up with this stuff. In Dave Arneson's, it's called The First Fantasy Campaign. That's literally the title. So if you want to talk about old school, there's time travel, there's spaceships, there's ray guns. It's bonzo. So once again, I don't think that, like, these kind of these generalizations we use for what's old and what's new in D&D are useful. So anyways, Slim takes the blaster. He has been robbed of all magic. He's no longer a cleric. But then he's like, yeah. And so the turnaround on this was crazy, because this could be a complete soul crusher for a player. But instead, I think is great. And I got to give my player mad props here, Jimmy, who plays Slim, for making this an awesome moment and not crying about it, not pouting. Instead, he's just like, wow, this is a turn. So he arms himself. It takes him some intelligence rolls to figure out how to use this thing, but basically it fires 8-round bursts that you get a D8 to see how many you fire. It's a formidable weapon. It's basically like an 8th level magic missile is about what you get out of it. And so he's in a way psyched. So they come around the corner. Now the water slide is continuing as they're hearing more commotion. They're being pursued. There is a grate overhead as they turn this next corner. They kind of try to be patient. They see something scriggling over the grate, not too worried. And then I think just because of spiritual momentum, they can't budge this thing. He just takes the blaster and goes, shreds this thing from below. And they climb out, and they have entered sort of the second big part of this fortress complex called the Vine Fields. The Egg's Nest is a fortress built into natural terrain, like all great fortresses, that has a sort of concentric ring design, like many medieval earthworks of the time. This is the sort of second concentric space, and it is a giant circular, semicircular space filled with these sort of corrupted, mutated, thorned vines. And so a lot of you, may know or be familiar with, like, castles in some parts of ancient history would use these, like, massive growths of brambles as a natural defense. Because if you don't have any way to just kind of fly over the brambles, but they're really green and let to grow healthily, they're hard to burn, it really can be a formidable obstacle. I mean, it can be as bad as barbed wire. So you would grow these brambles in a ring around your fortress in a walled garden usually. And this is kind of what this is. It has a small path cleared in the middle for the occupants to use. And at the end of that path, a massive fortified gate with 2 reptilians, 2 green knights atop this gate, armed with both these big melee weapons as well as, like, heavy versions of the blasters. And I just called them heavy blasters, and I think my players knew exactly what they were. So my players are now popping up out of a manhole in the kill box of these 2 gate guards surrounded by these vines. So now chaos ensues. They're trying to get up. They get an invisibility spell going on the wizard. The rogue piggybacks the invisibility spell. It can have 1 extra occupant. So they become invisible, barely evade the opening spray of blaster fire. Now the rest of my characters pop out. They're trying to get some forward progress, but they're basically pinned down. Galmorn tries to use the vines as cover, and the vines instantly, like, wrap around his neck and wrap around his ankles and pull them in and start shredding him and bleeding him. So he's like, shit, these aren't freaking brambles. These are like carnivorous fucking vines. Like, yeah, man, welcome to the egg's nest where these mutated life forms are everywhere and they're defending the center point. This is a defensive structure. It's built to shred you. And he's like, yeah, makes sense. But fuck, I'm tangled up in these things. So now the players are pinned down in a way with not very good cover. It becomes a ranged battle. Now, I don't know about y'all, but it is not that often that you get a really badass ranged battle in D&D because players always want to close, right? They want to close that distance. They want to get in close and they want to kill. When you're at range, enemies really do have a big advantage over their ability to fight hand to hand, I think. And maybe this is just my own weakness as a GM, but I don't get a lot of these really cool battles. But this one's badass. These guys are dug in a structure that's designed to defend them while they use these blasters. They're like blasting this kill box. My players are firing back with blaster and arrow fire. Finally, they're like, we're just never going to, this isn't going to work. We have to close on the gate. We have to rush it. And so they rush it. They just go for it. And in doing this, like they're kind of wasting some of their time. And of course, here comes the first haste spell. Now, our group, because of various magic items and other means, can get off 2 haste spells per long rest. And if you guys haven't looked, haste is probably the most powerful spell in all of OSE. It provides up to 24 creatures around the caster a bonus action and a bonus move every turn for 3 rounds. This is massive. Once they cast haste, there's 10 player actions before it's my turn again. This is one of their aces in the hole. So they use it to rush the gate. Up they go. They still have to take these guys out. The fight is still there. They have to avoid these mace impacts at all costs to not lose their magic items, but using a little bit of luck with the dice and using great tactics with always keeping the tanks taking the hits. They manage to take these 2 guys out. They salvage one of the heavy blasters and they move ahead as this alarm goes off. One of the guys on top of the gate, right before being killed, leaps back and fires an alarm. It's like a little, you know. So, oh shit, here comes a full-on squad of these guys. Now, the space behind the gate is this sort of next ring. There are no more vines. They managed to deal with the vines. In this next space, it's a ceremonial space, a ritual space with these stelae. So a stele is kind of like a pillar that doesn't hold anything up. It's a pillar that usually used to store information. Like a Mayan stele, for example, will hold a giant calendar carving, or a recounting of a king's great deeds will be on a stele. It's a stone block that's shaped a lot like a pillar, but that doesn't support anything. And this next courtyard has various stelae here and there, marking the deeds and stories of the Egg of Coot, or by its real name, which we'll find out next session, in these strange old carvings, right? So everybody knows what to do with these kind of objects. They're used for cover in a really scrappy fight. And so right away, my players have learned this in spades by now. When the cover is available, you use that shit. So they begin to disperse. They see the incoming squad, and the incoming squad also has a captain. It has Captain Kang. And Captain Kang has this huge stone weapon and like a mortar on his back, like a lobber type weapon. And he's commanding this next group of reptilians. Players also try to evade the 5-foot enemy nearby disadvantage. I don't know what that is. That must be 5e talk. Okay. So they have this next battle on their hands, and this is going to wind out the session doing this battle. Because the way the dice roll as far as squad occupants goes, I think they wound up fighting 7 of these Green Knights. Now, when they fought the first one, I think they thought in their mind it couldn't get any worse than this. Fighting 7 of them at the same time took massive tactical wherewithal. So what did they do? Well, that's the final scene. No, that's Krang. This is not Krang. This is Kang. They face these almost impossible odds. So first, they disperse, pull behind cover, make sure that they're still in support distance of each other in case somebody needs some help. And it begins. They unload their ranged weapons, and they are formidable in this type of encounter. So they begin wearing these guys down. Out comes Ruin, the great sword from the stars, he like cuts a guy to half his HP in a single hit. So they all focus fire on that guy, get him out of the fight. And we're talking 80 HP on these suckers. But then finally, my guys get a turn. The mortar is employed. It destroys one of the stelae that is being used for cover. And we have a lot of near misses with melee attacks and a lot of like whittling down damage from blaster fire. Okay, so it's definitely on. I'm not like a pushover in this battle. That is for sure. I've got a real chance of decimating this group of heroes, and I want it at this point. As the GM, 29 sessions is an admirable time for this group to survive. If I kill them all tonight, it's totally okay. So I'm going for it. I'm going for the throat. Back they come. This time, instead of just trying to do sheer damage, they go like into utility mode or battlefield control mode. So a lot of you guys who have seen highly skilled D&D groups know that they'll alternate like sheer damage spiking and then management, like handling the battlefield. If these guys just try to go toe to toe, it's not going to work out. They need an idea. And as usual, like our wizard, which this is really a wizard's role in group, is to have a sort of out there idea. So first he gets his flight spell going, he gets his invisibility spell going, but he doesn't use this to position himself for a massive fireball. He doesn't use this to do this sort of, I'm the wizard and I'm going to nuclear bomb everybody. No. Instead, he stays invisible, and what does he pull out of his satchel but a frond that they surgically removed from a rust monster, I believe in session 5 or so, that they've been keeping preserved. So because of several rolls that were made in the distant past of this campaign, we determined that the frond of a rust monster can be preserved with its corrosive capability for a certain amount of time. But once it's used a certain number of times, which the dice must determine, it will start to lose that corrosive chemical that the rust monster normally would biologically renew in the frond, right? But that limit is not really going to play. It's a little too high to really limit him right now. So this is how he knows his plan is a go. Remember, he's flying. So he goes around, and then again, we have a bit of a discussion. Is touching something gently an attack? Because if he attacks, he becomes visible. I say, well, it feels like you're fucking with his stuff. That feels like an attack. And he's like, yeah, but I'm not physically attacking. This is a gentle touch. I was like, okay, it's not a bad argument. Let's let the dice decide. So we flip a coin on this, and the coin reveals this does not count as an attack. So he does not become visible when touching one of these blaster weapons with a rust monster frond. You can see what this strategy means. We have an invisible wizard who can work his way around the rear of the battlefield, denying the enemy of their ranged weapons. Now, it doesn't just solve the battle, but it certainly does change the tone of what's going to work for me as far as wearing down the enemy, namely the heroes. So this is beginning to unfold. My heroes begin digging out all their resources to deny these green knights of their magic resistance shield, which they wear on their belt, like they're targeting those first, or in some cases trying to snatch them. Then we have Galmorn, who's finally using these metal shards, kind of like Magneto, that he can conjure around his arm and fire them like darts. He's kind of been pretty conservative with this, but he really brings it to bear this time, using Ignite Weapon as a combo. So he conjures the shards of metal, excuse me, and then casts Ignite Weapon onto the shards for a damage bonus. So he starts laying out some serious range damage with this. And this battle is joined. We have Slim over here with the firing the blaster. We have our rogue giving some crossbow support here and there, and also snatching these magic shields. And of course, our wizard flying around, denying them of their blasters. And then Zippler with Ruin, this massive sword that takes a round to recover. But when you're hasted, you can use it and recover in the same turn because you have 2 actions. So this is the whole compound tactic that they are using, and I'm starting to get like, well, fuck, man, I think they got this. They got this. But now Captain Kang is not out of the fight yet. He pulls this like ripcord on his back, and his mortar fires. And this time I've got a cluster of players. They've bunched up on accident. Boom, they all save versus death. They all make it and so go to 1 HP. So I drop 3 of my 5 player characters to 1 HP in a single attack. And I'm like, oh boy, here I come. Then we get a drop, we get a heal potion go in. A lot of the heal potions start getting used. And then there's movement. And because they have this haste spell, I can't quite outmaneuver them. They start cornering me, and I know they're just going to wear it down. Now, here is about 11 o'clock at night. And I'm tired. And I'm not only tired just because it's been a very long session. I'm tired because of the prep process for this session, which I'll talk about when I'm done. But I see this ending, and they see it too. They've numerically got me. They've figured out they've figured out my attack style. And I can't just invent new attacks for these enemies because they've got me figured out. That is not the truth. They've figured out the truth. They've mastered this encounter. But what happens is the table kind of relaxes. And the players start sort of getting flat-footed at the beginning of their turn. Like, whoa, it's my turn again? Okay, let's see. What am I doing here? And the turn length starts stretching out. And I'm like, oh my God, you guys, just be ready with your next attack. You know what you're doing. Like, I think everybody's getting a little sleepy at this point. So the turns are getting longer and longer. Even though this encounter is doomed, I can't win it as the GM. And I'm kind of like, oh my God, come on, you guys. So finally, we get this, the last, like the Captain Kang, we get him down. And they beat this encounter and they begin to move toward the next part of this fortress. And that's the session, right? This is 2 haste spells in now. So now they've blown both of their aces and they're heading into the sort of final phase of this fortress. So I've done a good job in wearing down their resources as a GM, but they also wore down my cognitive resources. Like, I was legit tired. Like, it was almost like playing chess in 5 different games at the same time because they were really digging in their heels. They did not want to be beaten. And I love that. So I had to make sure to let everybody know that just because I'm tired and a little frustrated and kind of like, come on, just get these turns over with, it doesn't mean massive credit isn't due. Their tactical wherewithal, their skill, and their buying into the game, their role play inside the tactical options of the game was resplendent. It was amazing, especially considering where they began a year ago, kind of saying, what's D&D? It's amazing to see that process, especially when you're the GM with a new group. You're partially the teacher. You are teaching them what D&D is. So to see them utilizing it that way and leaning into it, refusing to let their heels slip on the progress, refusing to fall, was absolutely fantastic. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about being tired here was the prep for this session was really, really tough. I did not know exactly what was going to hit, what was going to feel right. And this is really, we're coming into a climax, and the climax and ending of a campaign has a lot of pressure associated with it. And so it is a thing that is rightly asked about a lot on YouTube and on various internet places concerning D&D. It's tough, man. When you're the game master and you are expected to provide this big, explosive, exciting, and interesting ending and climax that also sort of features counterpoint, right? You don't want it to just be this massive difficulty spike at the end of the game. And that's it. That's not good enough. You need apotheosis. You need revelation. You need surprise. You need moral completion. You need so many different elements to get that feeling of fulfillment in an ending. And it's a lot like in a mystery story, right? You don't want to just know who the killer is. I mean, that's an important part, but that's not enough. You want to know what happened to the family. You want to know, like, was the cop redeemed, or did the cop fall into despair? It's not just about who done it. It's the fulfillment of the story as a whole. And this is a lot of pressure, and it makes it freaking difficult. I've been doing this shit 35 years or whatever. And it was still really hard to think what this session was going to be. I was really nervous coming into it. and really unsure of all that I had prepared. I think I over prepared as usual, like prepared for too many different versions, and like added on a, oh wait, that's not the real bad guy kind of thing, like with some kind of beholder offshoot. But because the readiness was there, I really felt great about this session. I think it was a legendary session. Was everybody a little bit worn down by such a monster battle? Absolutely. But unfortunately, they're about to get an education what a really gnarly battle can look like. And I have this surprise right off camera here to my left, but I will save that surprise so that you guys get it, sort of right after they do for session 30. We might even do session 30 in our old stomping grounds. We used to play in the upstairs attic of a nearby pub. And so we might book that for our sort of big deal. And I think my girl is going to cook us like a medieval feast for session 30. I don't know. Either way, it feels like a really big deal. So next session, we're going to be going up into the Cinder Cone. We're going to be fighting the remnants of the Green Knights and whatever awaits ahead as we find out the final and ultimate truth of my version of Dave Arneson's Egg of Coot, which I really twisted it quite a bit. And I look forward to running that session and telling all of you guys. So before we jump into Q&A, just, hey, yo, I want to send a special thanks to Prawn Wonton for hooking up my one-off Viking Death Squad Superfan pack. So if you guys keep an eye on Instagram, hankerin.fernail on Instagram, I'm going to be doing a couple of these little sort of flash sale things. They aren't really money grabs, so I don't want them to come across that way. They're just a fun way for me to get an excuse to ship things to people. So I want to make some of these really fun and exclusive little packs of goodies and ship them to folks. And the prices just represent basically the contents plus the exclusivity of it. I mean, these are all one-offs. So I'm going to be doing some crazy ones too. Thanks to Barnbard, I'm going to be doing a couple of these huge glass world maps. Now, everyone needs to brace themselves. These things are not cheap to make or to buy or to ship. They are quite expensive. So be ready for that. But they are so dope. Now, if you want to check out a really cool crafter, and I'm probably butchering how to pronounce his name, but it's Adesanya on Facebook. Adesanya, I think is how you spell his name. He is amazing, and he does this glass magnetic map, and his basement lair is just ridiculous. It's really, really neat. So check him out. But so there's that. Thank you for picking that up. That was really fun to ship that out. And those of you who have Viking Death Squad, the authentic Viking Death Squad t-shirts, they are pretty much the best t-shirts ever made. And yes, the typo humor continues on Lice. Other than that, you can get Index Card RPG, Viking Death Squad at the Modifius US store if you're in US, Canada. They have their US store completely set up now, so shipping has gone down to like $11 rather than... It's a little bit faster, oddly enough, coming from the UK, but it's pretty expensive. And I think it's because the way that the shipping routes are going right now, the US is all clogged up and stuff like that. But hook it up. These books are really, really great quality, and I'm very excited to be letting them out into the world. And then the final thing I wanted to talk about is that I will be in Mace West, the sort of small con in Asheville, North Carolina on March 11th. All weekend I'll be there running a junked tournament, and I'll have like a small stock of books and card decks and other things that I make for folks to pick up. And it's going to be fun. We're going to drink some beer in North Carolina, so that's kind of crazy. So that's it for me. Right now, I'm working on multiple projects. If you want to keep up with what I do, just jump on Patreon. And, all that other stuff that we always talk about. So, yeah, what's up? And yeah, all this Modifius stuff will be in your local game store as well within a month or so, I think. So if you prefer to go retail, good on you. It'll appear there. And yeah, we'll just keep on going. They seem to be selling pretty well so far. It seems to be pretty sticky. I don't really do any advertising or marketing of any kind. I really believe in quality and word of mouth, doing the work of spreading the word. So if you are a big Runehammer fan, thank you. Probably most people watching probably already have the book. But the one thing you can do if you really want to help me out is to spread the word about RPGs that aren't just D&D 5th edition. We live in a real age of like brand domination in our hobby. And so 5th edition is great, rock on. I hope everybody's enjoying that. But also it feels sort of dominant, almost like it's being mistaken for the hobby itself sometimes these days. So I think it's very important to keep little indie voices trucking along and keep things diverse and stuff like that. And I know that we have gotten Modifius shipping to happen to some South American countries. So I wouldn't give up hope quite yet. No, I have not read Patrick Stewart's new book. That sounds exciting. So if you have a question, please put question in all caps so that I can see it moving through the river of comments over there. Whew, man, session 29, crazy stuff. I think 7 hours is about where I start waning as far as the session length and starting feeling my age a little bit. I mean, it could be the fact that we're like drinking beer the whole time too. So, will you ever do an art book? Maybe. I don't know if my art is really good enough to do an art book. I tend to lose interest in them too, to be honest. I mean, I've been working on a graphic novel, but it's slowed after the turn of the new year. I've really slowed down on it. And I think it's because my creative center is RPG stuff. I'm not even quite sure why. I really love the graphic novel. I'm really proud of it. I think it's fun to do. But as my sort of patrons and other folks know, like I tend to slow down on projects that kind of like lose me cognitively, and then I kind of try to follow my nose to whatever's the most exciting. One great thing about being independent as a publisher and creator is going with what your gut really wants to make and not necessarily living on like deadlines and expectations and stuff. So a coffee table book would be really cool, but I don't know if it would really hold my interest. That's a tough one. Do you see yourself playing other RPGs? Absolutely. That's the plan right now. So everybody's getting ready to reboot, and they're really, I think, very excited because now that they know so much about what this is, I think they get to come into another round with a very different perspective. So we're either going to play ICRPG or we might play the prototype campaign of my new 2D20 game, Hard Suit. Haven't really decided yet. For me, I probably would like to play Hard Suit. I love ICRPG so much, but I've played it so much like I know the book top to bottom, so there's less discovery for me there selfishly. I think for them it would be super fun, but for me, I played like every world in there multiple times and stuff like that. So I'm a little more of an elder statesman when it comes to ICRPG, but it would be like a doe-eyed newbie when it comes to Hard Suit. And being new is always the most fun. Do you plan on anything to redeem or do as cleric powers? Well, we've agreed that you can relearn things that you once knew. You just need time. So I don't really plan on an artificial means to do that, but I'm not sure that it matters for the scope of the played campaign. I think the epilogue of our campaign will see him becoming like a renowned priest. How do you decide which character your bad guys attack? Sometimes I'll use dice. Sometimes they control that with their own powers that they mitigate. And sometimes I'll use it based on role playing, based on anger or based on believing their ruse or, buying their decoy or whatever. There's no one easy answer to that, but it is constantly a challenge for all game masters to choose who gets attacked. I don't think it's fair to just always go after the weakling, as some people recommend. I think it's a mixture. Sometimes it's random. Sometimes the players are controlling it, and sometimes I'm controlling it. Did you have another OSE group going? No, I don't. No, I don't. I keep almost having a second group form, but it hasn't had that rabid enthusiasm that just forces a group to form. I would like to do a mixed gender group. Would be fun. Kind of missing the sort of element that female players bring to the table. But I'm also not really a play with your wife type. It's not really my thing. So it's interesting, and generally I don't like relationships to be at the table either. It can be kind of odd. So that can be a tough group to set up, to find a mixed group where none of the members of the group are like in a relationship together. That could be somewhat complicated to set up, but I would love that to be a forthcoming group somehow. Did you have another? Oh wait. Sounds like you need a new. Yes, yes, yes. I think five is enough. Will we be getting a copy of Hardsuit over Patreon anytime soon? Well, oh, it's Victor, of course. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Um, Hardsuit has been worked on for less than 2 months. I mean, this has a long way to go. Uh, yeah, I'm not sure how the rollout will work on it. I'm trying to learn from each rollout of the stuff that I'm making to bring it to maximum effect. I'm a less a believer in beta rollouts than I used to be. I think it's good to keep that stuff private. It can kind of muddy the release of a thing if it has too much beta. So I'm not sure exactly how Hardsuit will release, but I know that it'll be done by the end of 2022. Um, it's just I've opened up so many cans of worms this year. I'm working on them kind of alternating. Like my newest release is going to be the Cypunk anthology. This is Bearcats, Altered State, and Xeno Dead Zone all in one print book. So those three have only been in PDF, and the number of people asking for a print version has become too big to ignore. So that's going to be the next thing you see coming from me. Yeah, it doesn't have to be singles night. It just I don't know if you guys have encountered this, but married couples or boyfriend girlfriend couples that are in a game together, there's some odd dynamics that happen there. And I'm not saying that's true all the time, but I've encountered it. So if possible, that to me is not ideal. But at the same time, it can be weird to be in a relationship with someone and go play D&D without them. So it's complicated. Yes, for the billionth time. I have not played Morkborg at the table, but I have read it. It's really cool. It's not really my thing. Will you be making videos or models for Hardsuit? Oh, like while I'm crafting for Hardsuit? I don't know. I might. Yeah, sure. All my miniature work I wind up streaming at some point or another. The I have to admit though the mecha building that I do is far more boring. It's extremely slow and meticulous, and usually involving very small things. So it's tough to film that in a productive way. But yeah, I'm sure at some point we'll see some of that coming up. Yeah, cool. Any thoughts on updates? Well, I mean, it's Bearcats, Altered State, and Xeno Dead Zone. Me and Alex decided that those three things not only were our most successful PDFs, but also all involve like a lot of really cool guns and gun rules and gun ideas for games that involve a lot of cool gunplay. So we wanted to put them together in a print form, and that's kind of where we got this term sci-punk. It's like sci-fi, but with a kind of a hard edge, meaning a focus on firearms and explosions and stuff. So that's kind of the idea around it. And then I just put it all into a print format, which takes a lot of handcraft work, and then sweetened it all too. Like just did an entire reading and revision pass on the entire text of all three books. Yeah. Xeno Dead Zone is kind of like a board game, but it's also an RPG. But yeah, it's sort of like a board game. I've been contemplating using Zymer's candle. Yeah, cool. Do you still like it? Yeah, I love it. I didn't put it in there for no reason. I think Zymer's candle serves one purpose, which players may not realize at first. It lets the enemies be far more deadly. Far more deadly. You should expect regular TPKs if you're playing 5e hardcore mode. Regular TPKs. Like every third session, I would say. You should expect a TPK in hardcore mode. And that's why the candle is there. The candle can get weird and give you a sense of odd time travel. So exactly how you use it, just be kind of video gamey with it, and wave off too many strange questions about how it works and stuff. Like, kind of just think of it as a checkpoint in a video game. Boba Fett's been pretty cool. I think Mando was a lot cooler because Mando is just so badass, but Boba Fett gets kind of more and more interesting each episode. He's kind of cool, but it doesn't quite have that impeccably awesome moral substance that Mando had. And that's okay. Not everything needs to be the best thing. But yeah, Boba Fett's awesome. Fuck, why not? New D&D. It's not the new D&D. You mean it's a backwards compatible edition? I mean, it's not a new edition. It's the number of caveats on that is yeah. I don't have a lot of super enthusiastic stuff to say about what Wizards of the Coast is doing with D&D right now. So I kind of just keep it to myself. I really believe in not like pooping on anybody's fun. Their branding strategy and stuff is just baffling to me. I don't know what is going on with that. I feel I kind of don't really understand the audience of Wizards of the Coast D&D anymore. It's definitely not me. And that's okay. That's totally okay. There's a lot of other cool stuff to play. So no harm, no foul. Rock on. But I don't really have a lot of thoughts on it. How much is that art piece that is not for sale? I mean, I guess I would sell it for, I don't know, a lot. It is a one of a kind. I'm not sure I even own the artwork anymore. I think it might exist on the old storage from Carbon. I'm not sure. But if you're very serious about acquiring some of my large format print art, Pyro, please email me. hankerin.fernail@gmail.com. This year I'm trying to open up as an artist and follow some new avenues instead of just publishing. And maybe really try to sell one-off pieces of art. It's kind of counterintuitive to me. It feels a little strange. But again, it's mainly because of people like you guys really pushing me to do it. Like, sell your glass art that you do, like sell your ink illustrations that you do, like the originals, like go for it and charge high prices. It's very weird to me. It's kind of like, I guess what you'd call a normal artist kind of does. It's very weird. So if you really are adamant about Ona Daisen, wait, what's his name? I love this guy. Ochi, Odachi Kensei. That's what he's called, the giant sword saint. Odachi Kensei is this guy. If you really are serious about that, then email me. I don't fuck with NFTs. Somebody else can fuck with those. I don't give a damn about NFTs. I just don't. All right. Probably been asked a million times. Will there be another print of the collector's edition? Yes, there is. I just got a little notification from the guys in Modifius. So it will be coming before too long, and we're going to do 500 more. Those 500 sold just like that. Like, people really prefer that collector's edition, which is great. I thought the price would kind of scare them off. But see, there again is my weird brain. I'm a very slow learner as far as being an artist goes. Yeah, totally. So Pyro, yeah, send me an email, will you? And we'll see if we can figure out what it would, because you have to ship these in like a wooden crate or they get destroyed, because this is a canvas. So we might be able to come up with some different print options for you. And we'll see if we can do it. Mono, what's up, my man? What essential rules do you think are necessary for a Star Wars ICRPG hack? Any other tips? I would look at West End Games Star Wars. I would just get that book out. I would just set it next to my brain while I sleep and try to absorb it, because it's so perfectly Star Warsy. I don't think the rules need to change at all from ICRPG. I think all you would need to do is write a gear set and you'd be done. Just make yourself like a 40 item gear table that's Star Wars gear, and just use ICRPG as it's written, and you're off to the races. Maybe do a couple of starting ability things or something or other. Yeah, Chris, hey man, appreciate that. Yeah, right on. Right on, Crooks. It is a journey. I think a lot of longtime hobbyists all want to do their own campaigns or books, rule sets and stuff like that, and it's a great instinct. There's a lot to it to do a good job, but like all things, it's just a muscle that you develop over time. Just stick with it. Keep working. Work on your writing, your layout, your art sensibilities. Work on your game design skills. Make sure you have a small group of people you really trust around you who are sharp, preferably smarter than you, and you'll do great. And I think I have reached the end of the rope. When the questions start appearing, that is when we call it. Glyphosato. You got any plans for the old YouTube channel in 2022? Nope, not at all. I plan on doing this. But yeah, YouTube has aged strangely. The digisphere is, I think, really going through an interesting period. I think that the last 2 years, people's utilization of computers and of the digital sort of social sphere has definitely changed, and not for the better or for worse. It just feels different. And I know that my interest never really lied in making produced videos. My interest is in playing D&D and like making D&D stuff and being a hobbyist, making miniature stuff, maybe even like making music that goes with it, making t-shirts and stickers and fun, doing art. That's really my interest. So I think the people who are doing, like slaying the game on YouTube, I think that has really eased off in a way. Like the days of like RC Sparks, I think have eased off. The insane trend grippiness of YouTube, I think, has eased off. I think a lot of people have moved on to Instagram and other places. I do like YouTube because it's so damn easy, and because you guys all get the alerts in such an easy way for what I'm doing. And so I'll stay on here till I get kicked out. But I do think Instagram is kind of where things are heading. I think a lot more people are used to getting small amounts of stuff via Instagram rather than, sitting here on YouTube for a couple hours. So I might be a little outdated in my live format, but I kind of don't care, to be totally honest. It's really just a direct communication tool for me to you. I'm not really trying to be anything. I'm just representing what I do. It does limit my growth, I think, a little bit, but I'm okay with that. I never showed up to explode with popularity. I kind of just wanted to do my craft and succeed, and take care of my family and stuff like that. But, super crazy YouTube success was never really my goal. That's why I don't even monetize the videos anymore. So y'all don't have to put up with commercials. Have been able to explore more of the East Coast? Yeah, sure. It's all towns and yards. There's very little. Yeah, there's no mountains out here. Hey, that's cool. Thanks, Pyro. What platform do you announce? I don't. I don't announce these. I don't announce their times. I usually just will in the community page on the YouTube channel. I'll put a post up that says I'm going to stream on Friday afternoon. But I have found that if I put up times or if I schedule things, I tend to procrastinate it and I don't want to do it. So I intentionally leave it open so that I can hit the button when it strikes me and when my day is like giving me that energy. And again, that's just me trying to just be authentic, instead of sort of forcing it, making it feel weird. I'm a very island brain kind of guy, so I like to kind of just go with the flow and stuff, be flexible. Yeah, Instagram is not good for archiving at all. Yeah, I think that we'll see some new life patterns when it comes to social media and how we're digitally getting along as the next 5 years come and go. I think it'll be interesting, and hopefully some healthy habits to with it too. Like the unhealthy aspect of phone life is something that a lot of us never signed up for, that has been sort of put on us in a very clever way by clever people in large companies. And I mean, they were very enterprising and very ingenious with it, but I think we all know now it's not necessarily the healthiest thing. So I'm interested to see where it's all going to go. Yeah, thanks, Norns. Here's Pyro again. Watching Gundam. Yeah, Iron Orphans is great. Oh, yeah, Wing is cool. Armada's cool. Seed is cool. Especially, I just like to watch Gundam without sound. I just like to listen to music and watch Gundam. Um, I woke up. What did I miss? Everything. All right. That's it, you guys. I'm going to get on out of here despite poor kid just waking up. Oh, will you do any more prep videos? Yeah, sure. I'll always do a prep video here and there. They're very demanding. It's a lot like running down the street with no clothes on. So that's a little bit intense. But yeah, I'll always do those. I think everybody really likes those. Yeah, thanks, Graphic. Did I miss when you explained what happened to your shelves? I got rid of my shelves. I needed a workbench. So I got rid of the shelves, and I got rid of almost all my books at the same time too. I gave them to kids in the neighborhood. See you guys. It's been great. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Stay in touch with me and Runehammer on Instagram or wherever. Email me directly. And this super fun train will keep rocking along. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Keep it real. Don't steal. And I will see y'all on that old internet. All right. I'm out of here. Peace. Oh, wait, what was the song? Oh, yeah. 2 words falling between the drops, and a mom's of his condition. Holding someone is truly believing. There's joy in repetition.